California okays a $2.8 billion bill to close Medicaid funding gap after expanding immigrant coverage. Sacramento, California. California Governor Gavin Newsom signed legislation Monday to close a $2.8 billion budget gap in the state's Medicaid services and ensure coverage through June for 15 million people, including immigrants who receive health care via the program. Just so you know, if you are a Californian on California Medicaid service, because it says the state's Medicaid services. So I don't know. I don't know if California has a separate Medicaid to the federal government or their wording is them just mirroring how the process works, right? The legislation is part of a state solution to solve $6.2 billion hole in the state's Medicaid budget. It comes a year after California launched an ambitious coverage expansion to provide free healthcare to all low-income adults, regardless of their immigration status. The expansion is costing far more than the state projected and could force the Democratic governor and Democratic lawmakers to reevaluate future coverage for millions of people. No shit. So if you are a Californian, you are a legitimate legal resident of the state of California, and you're an American citizen, you're a legitimate legal fucking citizen of the country in which the state of California is a part of. You are paying taxes, fucking tons of taxes to a state that then is using those taxes for people who are not paying the same amount of taxes into the system as you are, as you have been, or as you, or like as you ever will. Okay? Your money is going to fund other people's medical fucking coverage, and you might be thinking to yourself, I'm not in the best medical condition and I need more for Medicaid in order to cover the stuff for me. Well, guess what? You vote for Democrats, you're going to get Democrats. Democrats do not care for you. They care about power, and they try to say that Republicans only care about power. Great, that's fine. If you want to say both sides care about power, that's legitimate. But Republicans understand that the power they have only comes from the people, right? Everybody knows that, like, that's the whole point of politics and government is power and is control. No shit. So just remove that out of the factor. We all know that. Every person on planet Earth in retrospect to their own fucking form of government understands that. We're not retarded. Okay? But it's about where people believe the power derives from. And Republicans believe that the power that is vested into the state or into the federal government is only actually given to them by the people. Democrats believe that the power given to the state is from the state and by the government and not the people. So they do whatever the fuck they want, no matter how people feel. It's just that simple. So let me ask you, they just approved a $2.8 billion budget because they already passed a $6.2 billion budget that's in the hole by $2.8 billion. The budget they passed, they needed to almost add another half of that fucking budget to compensate for it because they're giving it to illegal immigrants. And it's costing you, the taxpayers. And then they increase your taxes. And then you can't afford anything. So because you can't afford anything, they say, oh, let's pass this budget that we pay for it using your taxes. So then you don't have to afford it. Then they can't afford it. So then they increase your fucking taxes. You see where this keeps going under Democrat leadership? Y'all understand that's how it works, right? That's how they get you. They create the problem intentionally. They intentionally create the problems. They know what the effect is going to be. They know that it costs too much. They pass bills to increase the minimum wage and force everybody to have to keep paying more and more for services or resources or consumer goods or something like that. They know that's going to increase the prices of stuff. They know then in turn that's going to mean that you have less money in your pocket to pay for stuff. Then they turn around and they increase the taxes so that they can tell you that by them forcefully taking more of your money, they can provide more to you. And then at the end of the day, none of your money is yours. None of your freedoms are yours. And the state provides everything to you. And that's what you get under Democrat leadership. So I hope more Democrats wake up to this because it's just evident. It's just evident. It's just common sense. Right? Like, Republicans don't advocate for increasing taxes on people. Sure, all the left wants to say right now is all this dumb shit about tariffs, like they fucking know anything about tariffs. They had nothing to say about tariffs under Trump's first administration. And let me point this back out as well, because some people have been pointing this out. Democrats are saying it's a tax on people. Tariffs are a tax on the consumers. So if tariffs are a tax on the consumers and tariffs are only regressive, why does every nation on planet Earth have tariffs? And why do they and so what? They're all just inflicting damages on their own people? They're all just they want to make things cost more for their own people? No, they don't. The only difference is that when they implement tariffs, their government has control over the market, so then they get the money. Because they don't have to fucking increase or decrease prices because they're in control of the market. But we live under a free market, so people of other corporations are able to decide whatever the fuck they want for those corporations. And if the companies decide to increase the prices instead of onshoring manufacturing in the US or sourcing materials from the US or whatever, that is their choice to respond to the tariffs that way. The tariffs there wasn't one option to responding for the tariffs. Multiple options were presented to people months in advance, years in advance. Everybody in this country who voted for Trump and everyone who didn't vote for Trump knew that tariffs were coming if Trump got into power. They saw the writing on the wall that the Democrat Party was going to that they were lying about the polling data and that Trump was actually going to win. They had time to prepare for this. They had time to shore up the defenses and start onshoring manufacturing or doing whatever other kind of fucking thing they figured out to do to compensate for tariffs, and they chose not to. They chose not to because the companies would rather outsource instead of having to pay Americans decent wages. They would rather keep exploiting cheap fucking labor in all of these very fucking impoverished nations. They're taking advantage of people. Just like they say the poor here, right? That's what the left says. The left says, oh my God, we have to increase the minimum wage because they're exploiting the poor. As they bring in illegal immigrants so that the companies they say they don't support can exploit the illegal immigrants to pay them even less than minimum wage because it's not being verified through any legal means because those individuals are here illegally and employed illegally. Do you see what I'm fucking getting to here? Do you see what I'm pointing out? Right? There's already companies here that manufacture and source their materials from the US, right? And they already have relatively low prices. And their prices would actually be lower if they were able to expand their companies in the United States to mass produce items, right, to then sell in the US. But they can't because they have to compete with foreign interests and foreign labor that pays employees so much less. Right? The podcast I listen to, Timcast IRL, they have a skateboard company called the Boonies. They sell their boards for $55. That's not too bad for a fucking skateboard. I'm not a skateboarder, right? But $55. That is something they have already established in the United States, manufacturing and sourcing materials from the United States, $55. So guess what? Guess what? The tariffs that are being implemented by the US and by other nations have no effect on that. $55 is there to stay, right? So this is me just pointing out to you the left causes the problems and then they lie to you about the solutions that Republicans put forward, right? Trump wants to get rid of income tax, right? Which means that you don't pay any taxes to the government straight out of your salaries, right? So instead of getting your leave and earnings statement or your pay stub or whatever the fuck you want to refer to it as, right? When you get that and you look at how much you made gross, you don't see all those reductions. Those reductions no longer happen. They're no longer taking money out for Social Security, for Medicaid, for state tax, for federal tax, for any of that shit. You get all of your money. Where do they then get that money? When you go to buy shit, right? Then the money comes from there. So people who want to constantly buy shit and they have more money to buy shit, they're the ones who then fucking spend they spend an equal amount proportionally to their money as they spend towards going towards those programs. It's literally an equal way of taxing people based on consumer habits. And if you don't want to pay all those taxes, all you have to do is consume less, which would probably improve your health. And if everybody in the US consumed less, it would improve their health. And then the healthcare system wouldn't be so burdened by so many unhealthy Americans. And then there would be less demand. So then there would be more supply. So then medical services and medical treatments and medical fucking pharmaceuticals and all that kind of stuff would go down in price. Imagine that. Imagine that. And then if companies don't reduce the prices, then we have a market that doesn't have to compete with foreign markets. So somebody here can establish a market because they have a good moral foundation. And that's what happens under free capitalism. And they can start manufacturing and producing pharmaceuticals in the US, sourced from ingredients and stuff in the US, and paying US workers. And then the larger they get, the more they can mass produce, which means the fucking lower they can drop their prices. This is what people don't even think about when they think about offshoring fucking American manufacturing. We lose jobs. We lose out on an incentive structure for the free market to actually operate justly in the United States. Okay? Then we're also giving a ton of money to all of the nations we consider adversaries. How does that make any fucking sense?